Hello everyone, in today's video we'll be finishing up our series on the Boeing 777-300ER by PMDG, with of course the fun stuff, descent and landing. Let's get started. So everything's good to go. If you're wondering what the red boxes are for, that's what happens when you're not careful with your joystick. So what we have here is we're getting ready for top of descent. It's right at Ryback here, or high back I should say, and it's pretty close. To get ready for top of descent, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to tell our aircraft what our bottom altitude is going to be. Since we're in VNAV right now, the computer is going to be smart enough to basically take us down all the critical altitudes we need, as long as we say what our limit as far as descent altitudes go. So we're going to limit it to 2,000 feet here. So one of the things we want to do is we want to go through all of our checklists to make sure everything's pretty much ready to go. We're going to make sure the recall is checked. To do that, just press cancel recall. And again, we got no warnings here. Check. Notes, check. Auto brake. We're going to go ahead and select our auto brake. So to do that, of course, I'm going to swing over here. Go ahead and exit out of auto cruise. This did a great job getting us here in a reasonable amount of time, I would call it. Ground operation. Helps if you press right page. Performance tool. We're going to do landing en route. We're going to KMCO, which is our destination here. Looks good to me. We decided on 3-5 left. It's a pretty short runway. We'll be fine. 10,000 feet is plenty. Runway heading looks good to me. Runway slope looks good. Conditions dry today. I'll import the aircraft. We're 550-127. Flaps configured going to be 25 degrees. We can also do 30 degrees, which is going to help slow us down a little bit. Cooling's going to be on. Ice, there's not going to be any ice. I don't have to worry about it. Reservoir configuration. The reservoir can no credit. I'm going to say it's working. Auto brakes. What? We'll do auto brakes 3. Let's see. Non-normal condition looks good. EVRF add. I always like to add 5 knots just in case. But import the weather. Yeah, still good to go. All right. 350. I'm going to press calculate. It's going to do some quick math for us. Estimated weight, required landing distance. Woohoo! Wow, we're going to use a lot of landing today. That's okay. So we're going to be using auto brake 3. So I'm coming here and slap this into position 3. Check. Landing data. Let's go ahead and do some calculations here. So I'm going to come down to init ref. And brings up the landing page. If it doesn't, press index, and you can come right down to approach. So we're going to be doing flaps 30, 149. So you can either click it and go like that, or you can be sneaky and do 30/154. Now you're like, what about, where did you get 154 from? What's the deal with that? Well, if you remember, our approach here is 154 because we're adding 5 knots onto the original reference speed. So that works good, 30/154. I click right there. It saves that into the computer. Landing data complete. Minimums are going to be 200 again. So I'll float up here real quickly here. You've got the minimum set. So what you can do is you can just go boop, boop, like that. And that just sort of reminds you can see barometric minimums down below. We're going to be using radar minimums. So I'm going to click here. And if you give this a quick little wiggle like this, you can see what it's going to do is it's going to give us a 200-foot minimums here. Again, you can get that off the approach plate. That looks good to me. I'm going to put FPV on. You get this little circle to kind of see what it's doing or not doing. That's good. That's all we had to do as far as that goes. Nice. We're going to do our approach briefing now. I'm going to go take a look at my before descent here. Engine instruments check. Fuel quantity check. Lights is required. ATIS set. Altimeter radios. MCP altitude check. FMC approach speed. Localizer frequencies are set. We're just going to confirm that real quick. Boop. We're going to come down here. We've got our handy dandy navigation radio. 110505 automatic check. So that's correct. I'm going to come down here and press the normal page. Looks good to me. We're going to be dealing with that when we cross with 18,000 feet. All right, let's go down and continue our checklist here. If you're wondering what checklist we're looking at today, I'll go ahead and open it up so everybody can take a quick little gander here. Sort of working down this side. Approach briefing, altimeter when we get close. Speed 250, landing lights, passenger signs. We're going to deal with all that once we get a little bit closer to the ground here. And again, we're going to be on the ground in 15 minutes. Like, that's about how long it takes. I love that. Once you start coming down, it's on, so to speak. I'll go ahead and set that to about, my throttle about there. Again, be careful with noisy throttles. It can cause issues. Okay, so we're getting pretty darn close to our position here. In just a moment, the aircraft is going to start descending. One of the things I can do is if you press VNAV real quick, you can actually go next page, and you can see there's a Descend Now button. So if you have any doubt that it's going to descend, you can actually come down here and press Descend Now. And what it will do is you can actually see my throttle pulling down. You can actually see my aileron and all that other stuff kind of kicking in here as we start the descent process. And you can see it overdid that just a little bit. Calm down, Mr. Plane. We're just going to... We're just going to Disney World. It's okay. And again, one of the things you'll notice from time to time is this pop-up might appear. And that's just letting you know that you need drag. The reason it's telling you this is because at idle thrust, we're not descending fast enough. And the reason this happens, of course, is a lot of times you have a tailwind. And you actually come up here and you can see we have a tailwind. If you want to use some extra drag here, what we can do is we can grab the speed brakes. If you set it to armed, and then you go ahead and pull this about half. You don't need more than that, trust me. That looks pretty good. What will happen is that we'll go ahead and pop the speed brakes out. Now, if I actually jump outside, you can see them kind of broken out there, the spoilers. And you got to be really careful with this, because what will happen is you forget that you did that, and your engines will basically throttle up trying to compensate for all that drag you just created. So just be mindful of stuff like that. So we know here we need about 954 feet to go. That's plenty. I'm going to go disengage the speed brakes. So right now, this little dial here tells us how close we are to being on our target as far as our descent goes. And we can see we're about 500 feet. We're basically going to overshoot it. And then we're going to look at this. Look at how fast we're going to overshoot this. Yeah, you can see it's basically perfect. And again, the engines are going to start spooling up in a few seconds once we've reacquired it. Right there. Perfect. So again, really good autopilot on this plane, and it had no difficulty recapturing our desired descent rate to get us down where we need to go. So what we need to do now is now that stuff's all set, we'll continue our little stuff. Altimeter, we can't touch that until we get to 18,000 feet. Localizer freak check. Of course, we checked approach arm. We can do that when we come arrive. We'll get all our flaps down and stuff like that. Go around altitude, auto thrust, auto engage. All that stuff is pretty much ready to go. One thing I will do while I'm here, though, I'm going to go ahead and tweak the landing direction here. Set this one a little bit, just like that. Now, a lot of people have a different opinion, whatever that is, on what kind of modes you should have visible on the screen at any time. I, as a real-world pilot, like to simplify my experience when I'm coming to land, because the only thing I want to be worrying about is landing the plane. I know that sounds obvious, but you'll know what I mean with information overload, kind of a thing like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change a couple things here. I'm going to set this to 40, which is a little bit closer. I'm going to set this to 80. So we have a pretty good idea of what's going on. We have a terrain button. I'm going to press the ter button, and it's going to go ahead and turn on our terrain radar. This little number is going to let us know if there's any terrain nearby. Obviously, it's Florida. There is no terrain in Florida. I think the highest mountain in Florida is like a hill on a golf course or something like that. It's just one of those things. But my buddy would appreciate that. So that's good to go. So I'm pretty much booted up, all set on that side. Some people like to set this to center. This gives you a pretty good view when you're coming in. This is very much like a regular HSI in center mode. And one of the reasons I like it is if you go to app mode and approach mode, you can actually see all the details for your ILS, just like you're flying like a Cessna 172 kind of a thing like that, which we're not, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what's going on if that's something that you're looking for that modification for yourself. So what I'm going to do is fast forward time a little bit here. All right, there's 18,000 feet. I'm going to go pop over here to STD. What that's going to do for me is load up the standard barometric pressure. I can press the B key now. And we can see it's 30-02 down here in Florida. We also have an FMC message. It's yelling at us about drag, but watch this. If you actually look really carefully, you can see I'm only 80 feet off of my desired vertical path here. So it's not that big of a deal. Again, I come over here and just clear that out if it bothers you. No big deal. It's, of course, going to make that one go away, too. So that's good to go. Auto brake is good. We can see our speed brakes are armed. That's pretty much ready to go. Our next big milestone, if you want to think about it as a milestone. Hey, Florida. There it is. Check it out, the cruise terminal. It's going to be right over there. Cruise terminal is going to be right there. So, of course, now we're crossing into Florida here. Like I said, we kind of come out to the ocean, but come back around. Very, very easy approach here. Our next big milestone is 10,000 feet. And there we go. So at 10,000 feet, of course, landing lights are going to come on and the speed limits kick in. The speed limit for us, of course, is going to be 250. And you can see we're way too fast for that. But remember how we descended a little tiny bit early? That gives us a little bit of wiggly room to basically decelerate so that we can safely get in. Another thing you'll probably observe here as we're coming in is you can start to see the appearance of terrain on our screen here. That's good news. Like I said, it makes it, we know it's working. And we can also see the nearest train is. It's Florida. There's no terrain. But the cool thing here is you can see our approach is good. Now, what we want to do is we want to start thinking a little bit about our landing here. It says 5,000 at or above is our next kind of speed restriction here. And we're a little low, which is what I wanted. So one of the things we can check here, and again, without looking at the approach plate, which is what you should be doing, is we can actually come in here and confirm that spur is actually 1,600 feet. I had a feeling drag was going to be required. I knew that was coming as soon as I saw how fast we were going. All right, let's go ahead and pop that one on real quick. And so we can actually come over here and dial in the 1,600 feet there. And again, we're cheating a little bit because we're not using any of the other stuff. So I'm now going to drop my range down again. Again, I like to try to keep them proportional to each other, especially when you come into a terminal area. Things get very busy very fast. And that is drag. It has plenty of drag. I can go ahead and slap that back to arm there. And you can see we're coming down pretty slow here. This is good. We're 250. 240 is basically going to be that speed. We just got a little heads up that's going to tell us the cabin is now ready. They came by and collected all the drinks and stuff like that. So we're pretty much good to go for the last part of our journey here. Now, we're going to be doing a good old-fashioned ILS landing, even though the weather in Florida is a lot better than it was in PBD a few minutes ago. So what we're going to do for this landing is we're basically going to arm the approach right when we round the corner with our final approach fix there to make things easier. Again, about 3,000 feet at Fight 'em. Full buck, Fight 'em, spur. They make it very, very easy to do. So last couple checks we want to do, approach, altimeters, we're going to go ahead and say that's set. We're going to set normal. Landing gear needs down. This is our next two steps, so we're not going to worry about any of those. But instead what we're going to do is we're going to grab our other checklist real quickly and just go through the last couple pieces here. Passenger signs, altimeter check, 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 glide slope. All right, we are right here. So approach has got to be armed. This is a pretty easy task to do, and I'll go ahead and do that now as we're kind of coming in for our last little bit here. So to arm the approach, really simple. We come over here, and this button says app. You press app. When you do that, of course, what's going to happen is it's going to pop up a little warning message that's going to say that the lock is white. That means it's not acquired. In my VNAV path, glide slope has not been acquired. That makes sense. We haven't got there yet. One thing that is handy, though, is you'll notice up here, IDDO is 006 degrees. This is the actual ILS frequency, and it tells us we're 14.3 nautical miles away, and this is going to be the desired heading for it. You probably heard a beep a second ago, and we got the warning for drag required. But again, we're 88 feet off of our course here. So let's fast forward time just a little bit. And we are rounding the corner. We're getting ready for landing. So one of the things I like to do with this particular aircraft, this is just in general, is it's a good idea to get the flat plane dirty early. This is a very heavy airplane. So what I'm going to do is if you take a look here, we get 245 for flaps 5. I'm actually going to bring in flaps 5 right away because our limit is 250 right now, or 240 right now. And what's going to happen is, of course, the slats are going to come out first, and you can see the plane starts to kind of stretch itself out just a little bit here. And again, this is going to make for a much, much easier landing for us, as you're going to see in a minute as we start to slow down. So now that we're kind of coming around, we have lock and we have VNAV speed are both captured, and we can see we are way too high. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take over the plane here, and I'll kind of encourage it. We're going to go get our landing gear down. We can see we're way, way, way too high. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the vertical speed control, and we're just basically going to dive down onto it. So come down about 1,500 feet per minute. Again, we've got a lot of flaps helping us out as far as extra drag. Our landing gear is going to help us out a lot as well. And you can see the dangling out below us, and that'll basically keep us from getting fast here. Look out the nose. I could already see our destination, and that's perfectly fine. So we're just going to go ahead and enjoy a nice little descent as we start to go ahead and basically sneak in. Again, where was air traffic control on that? They dumped us from 5,000 feet, and then they need us at 1,600 feet. Come on, air traffic control. You are so much better than that. So 15 degrees of flaps is at 230. 20 degrees is going to be 225, so I can go down that much, and I'm actually going to bring in all those flaps. And you can see this big angry red line here basically saying, hey, are you sure you know what you're doing? You've got a lot of drag in this plane. And one of the things you probably notice here is we're going to go ahead and select our desired approach speed, which if you remember is 154. We got that from before. There's 200 knots. We'll go take a look down. We get 25 degrees of flaps at 200. I'm going to be careful here because the flap relief is going to kick in. But again, if I jump out the back here, you can see just how big these barn doors are basically hanging off the back of the plane. And we're starting to get a little low, which is perfect. That means everything's working correctly. The plane's descent, we're basically going to interrupt the descent in a second here. You'll see what I mean. There it goes. See how we're starting to see the diamond for our glide slope there? We're just about ready to capture it. And again, enjoying my nice little descent here. Go ahead and check everything. Flaps needs to be 30 for landing. Gears down. Flaps are basically ready. 180 is going to be our limit here, so I can't put my last click of flaps in just yet. Could do too, so we could pop out the speed brakes for a second here, but that's just dangerous. We're going to get load relief warning on the flaps. So it's just telling us that we're putting a lot of pressure on those things. And you can see we're slowing down that last couple knots here, and we can see we're still a little high on glide slope there. That's perfectly fine. So we can see we're just about to dip down. I'm going to go ahead and kill the autopilot here. I'm going to bring the nose down. And we're just going to switch to automatic here. There we go. Automatic, I mean manual. One of the things I've noticed in a flight sim a couple times is every once in a while, when you're doing some kind of approach into something, is that the glide slope will not actually be the correct angle. This is not an issue with the glide slope being an incorrect angle. Actually, this is pretty much right on. Re-engage automatic pilot, and you can actually see there that we were able to capture the glide slope. And you can see glide slope is armed, localizer is now armed, our landing gear is down, all of our landing lights and warnings are all out. I'll show you a really cool pro tip. Reach up above your head now. Click. You know, the reason you do that, of course, is that's going to give us that extra little bit. All right. Looks good. Stabilize. Good, good, good. Land 3. Green. Again, never, ever, ever be afraid to take over control of the airplane. And you can see this thing's all scraped up. Like, they did such a nice job on this. Again, this thing would be wobbling back and forth. Oh, man, my childhood's kicking in here real hard. We're almost to grandma's, we're almost to grandma's. And then you get out of the airplane and you just get a whack of humidity in your face. And you're like, what? All right, landing this thing is really conventional. You basically pull the throttle. And when you hear 20, pull the nose up a little bit.
Minimums. $100. 50. 30. 20. 10. 5.
That's it. That's as hard as that has to be. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get the reversers on. Isn't that awesome? Man, does this plane land easy. Like, of all the airliner airplanes that I've flown over the years in flight sims, this is probably one of my absolute favorite as far as safety and reliability when it comes to trying to land it. There's just something so polite and easy about it. And like they said, we use about 7,500 feet. You could see that was a pretty good guess. We used quite a bit of flight, I think closer to about 6,300 there. So as we pull off, of course, it's always a good idea to go ahead and clean the plane up. We don't want to be sitting here with the landing lights all blasting people in the face and stuff like that. But pretty good, pretty darn good. So we go ahead and pull ourselves off. We're going to assume we got clearance to come on through. So we're going to come on through. Go ahead and start cleaning up the airplane here. Everything's looking good. We're going to disarm the automatic brake there. Looks pretty good. Normal. We're just going to say this. You have all of your landing kind of touchdown, shutdown stuff. We'll get to that in a minute. Man, what a great plane. Absolutely fantastic airplane. Very, very, very easy to handle. Really no surprises. There's no drama. Notice, by the way, we said 21, like, what was it, 21:31 or something like that. So we're 3 minutes early. Isn't that incredible just how amazing this airplane is as far as all the computing and stuff goes? Wow, we're nice and light now, too. You can really feel the difference. I'm just going to nuzzle up right here. Right there. Okay, let's go ahead and get this thing all nice and shut down. This is kind of the fun parts. I can turn this back on. It doesn't matter. It will not get grumpy at me. All right, hydraulic panel needs to be set. Fuel pumps off, flaps up, park and brake is going to be set. Fuel control switches, that's the last thing we do. All right, so let's go ahead and pull our two fuel switches here. If you remember, we activated the APU during our little kind of run-up. And you're probably like, why'd you? Oh, that's why he did that, because he knew this would come up. All right, let's get the hydraulic panel all squared away here. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do that. We'll pop those two off, and those can all be left on. The hydraulic panel is all set. Fuel pumps are going to come to the off position. And that is all set. Fantastic. Now, there's one little tricky thing you have to watch out for. This is securing the plane. We're going to skip that bit. But one of the things you have to remember is when you've done all those beautiful flights, of course, you want to get all those things to come run up and plug into you. So we're going to set our chocks like that. We're going to ask for a jetway connection, kind of a thing like that. You can see ground vehicle services. Give me everybody. But if you go to door management, we have to actually disarm the doors to open the doors. So if I press disarm, it gives us the ability to actually open the individual doors here. So if I come over here and bop all those buttons, we know we need some cargo doors. You're going to get a bunch of yellow angry doors. There's a bunch of warnings are going to pop up. But if you pop outside, you can see here very clearly that now that we're all nice and settled and our plane's all pretty much ready to go, go set those park brakes one more time. We are all set, and we have completed a very, very successful journey. Requesting all vehicles. I probably don't need all the vehicles, but I'm requesting them all anyway. And they just sort of descend upon this poor airplane. So you can see all the different vehicles all plugging in and trying to connect their hoses to us. And they're like, why is there already pressure coming out of here? But as you can see, fantastic airplane, a very, very good flight. Not bad. The landing, I wish it came a little bit better on my left tire. And of course, there was the engine incident that we saw earlier, which I described how to avoid. But absolutely fantastic stuff. Oh, one more thing before we disappear. Might as well open the window. There's a great scene in the movie Airplane where he opens the window and he pays the credit card right here. I love how there's a sign, window not closed. Enjoy.